I've always liked ghost stories and horror films. I come from Venezuela originally, and our folklore and our lore has like a lot of like this kind of stories, and it's always I've always like really like been fascinated by it since I was a kid. So this was made from a short story that I wrote,
Okay.
and then I made it into the short film. But in making the short film, I always had the feeling that there's like more here. There's more story here, more to get to know this family as characters and like the lengths they go into integrating this dead person into their lives. So I think, that's a feeling that we always were straddling, like, okay, make it a short film that feels that is, works as a short, but can also be a proof of concept for a feature. So the feature right now is being written, as
Okay.
we're talking. Yes, it's on development.
What I was most struck by is like the themes of death, grief, and letting go. Um, because I know you mentioned folklore. Were there other things in your personal life that were on your mind that made you write this?
It's so interesting because I always find that like for stories that I write, either I know early on why I'm writing it and the main themes and like why I'm fascinated, or it happens that as I'm writing it, they reveal themselves to me. And this is what's the latter case, right? At first, I just wrote it because I liked the story. I thought it was like really funny and engaging and curious, and people really gravitated towards that short story. But then as I was writing it, I started realizing that it was as much of a letting go and holding on to like what's been lost. It's also about the dangers of nostalgia,
Mm.
and that was even reflected in not only in the grandfather and that they're holding on to this image to who he was, but also in that so the story is set in Venezuela in the early 2000s, which is the decade I grew up in, Venezuela, and I look back on that time with a lot of nostalgia. But I find that if you are always stuck in the past, like the past and reminiscing is a beautiful place to visit every once in a while. But if you get stuck there, it kind of stunts you and it becomes something that it was not. It just gets like twisted. So I think as I was writing it, I really wanted to like make it in Venezuela and make it really feel like how my life felt back then, minus, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I first in the beginning, I really wanted to feel really recreate and evoke how first love felt, and everything feels boundless and splendid when you're in love for the first time. And then as the movie goes on, it's not only this family that can't let go of the old man, it's this boy who can't let go of this relationship and this moment in his life, even though deep down he knows it's been wounded to death.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
interesting that you bring up nostalgia because, especially in film and TV, it's like we're rebooting everything from like the 90s or 80s and 90s usually. We're rebooting these things. And that I feel like that really stunts like creativity in the film space.
Yes.
So it's interesting that we're so obsessed with the past right now.
Yeah, it's I actually saw an article, or it was actually a post. I think it was a post that leads to an article that said it just that how nostalgia is like hurting the film world right now because it's all about going back and like this doesn't this feel good? And again, there's a space for that. But I think I saw there's this movie I love. I mean, people know it, so I'm not revealing anything. It's called Y tu mamá también by Alfonso Cuarón. And I saw the two actors, Diego Luna and Gael Garcia Bernal, talking about it. And Diego Luna said how movies before were made to reveal us something. And now so many movies are made to confirm something. And I feel like nostalgia sometimes overused does that. It's like, no, things are fine, just stay in the past. And I find that art is a medium where you want to like sometimes like dare to like, push back and push boundaries and find new perspectives and always going back. I feel it's like, yeah, it's like stunting the film viewers a little bit, and it's restricting us creatively for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, in terms of like the theme of death in this movie, there's a saying that you are you are alive as long as the last person who remembers you. Do you
Mhm.
think that's true?
You know what? I thought about it before, like whether maybe that's like or the most grounded version of afterlife, is that we live through the people who we loved and we live through what we live behind, the idea of legacy. So I don't know. Do I think this? I think there's an element of that that is true. Oh my God, that's like I actually don't know. I don't know myself. Like I think there's an element of that that's definitely true and valuable. Making something that like extends beyond you, but I don't think it's about you as a person. I think it's about the good that you leave behind in the world. I think that's really like the idea of like something that lives beyond you. That you get to plant a garden whose seeds you're never gonna like, or whose fruits you're never gonna enjoy, but people beyond you will. That's what I think it is, but I don't think it's about, I think when it comes to death, it's gonna sound weird because death is so painful, and we are all scared of it, and it's a hard process, but the fact that we die, it's like it's cliche, right? Like gives meaning to life. The fact that our life has finality and the people around us has finality gives meaning to life and gives us a sense of like urgency and of like appreciation that, I think being able to like say this person is gone or I'm gonna be gone someday makes us like it frames for life in a different, maybe more productive way.
Yeah. Now, in the United States, at least, there's like talking about death seems to be taboo
Hmm.
still in a lot of ways. I mean, we explore it in films, obviously, but like as far as day to day, we kind of shy away. Why do you think that is?
I think because I think specifically with the US, it's a country that is it's in its ethos is the idea of like greatness, right? Like um and I think greatness sometimes is associated with like, eternity and endless optimism. And the idea that death is the ultimate equalizer that kind of like trivializes everything. It feels
Yeah,
so antithetical. But that's why I think sometimes like people who are religious believe in the afterlife because like no, like nothing's gonna end. I think that has to do a little bit with it, and no, and I also think it's just an idea that's uncomfortable to comprehend. That all these things we give so much meaning towards, whether it's like some people is patriotism, some people is this or that custom, whatever tradition, whatever it is. In the end, it's all one day gonna end, and it's just an uncomfortable like the US on paper is so great that like how can that ever end? Some
right.
people say it's like a what's the name? Like it's like a destiny or something, manifest destiny, whatever that is. Um, and I think the idea that like no, not even that, not even the US is exempt from ending. I think that's why I think people don't think of that consciously, but I think that's why so like it permeates everything in culture, or that idea about death, that discomfort about death.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen the film Pen from 1988?
No, I haven't. No.
It your film made me think of that in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of curious because you mentioned it was a short story first. So did you like were inspired by other authors in terms of the story?
I think you're gonna get a kick out of this. I was not inspired by an author. So in Venezuela, I was inspired by something that actually happened in Venezuela. In Venezuela, I think it was 100, 200 years ago. There was this German doctor who lived in Venezuela called Gottfried Nock. And Gottfried Nock, he developed this substance that allowed bodies to be embalmed without having to take out, the insides or whatever. So what happened is that a bunch of rich people would get their loved ones when they died to be like embalmed, and they would display them in their house. And like, there's like famous writer who was like sitting on a desk, and they made it into like kind of like in the movie. And people were just like there, and the stories of people who like go in and tell like, hey, you want to hang your hat on, and people would throw the hat, try to like get it to like sit on a person's head, and it became like this thing. And this guy even has wrote a like he even like built a mausoleum in the mountain that I've been to, where him and his family were like he was gave instructions to his assistant to like put the substance in us and laid us to rest there. And at some point, someone stole the bodies. But that was the thing that happened. And then eventually Guzman Blanco, president in Venezuela, came in and he thought it was like awful. So he just made everyone be like buried and be done with it. But
Yeah.
that's actually, it was such an odd thing to have in our culture. And I was inspired by that.
Oh wow, I love that. That's
Yeah.
that makes me think of like in the Victorian era, especially in England,
Mhm.
families would take photos with dead people in them. Like it
Yeah.
has like that made me think of your film a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that idea that, I think there's another element in the movie that is like familiarity, right? Like what is normal to some people
Yeah.
is not normal to others, because for me, it's very important that this family, there were conversations at some points early in the development stage that like they should have some sort of like plot to like steal the kid and then bomb. And I was like, for me, it's very important that for them, this is like a noble, normal thing, and it's the idea that it's such a like limit that we have as people that we can intellectualize that oh, what's normal to me is not to others. But sometimes the way we were raised, it's so wired in us that when there's something that feels like foreign, we like reject it, and it's a limit that we have, that as people. So, in that era, like you're saying, the Victoria era, and that was like normal for us. That feels like so weird.
Right. And it brings up the question, like, is this family evil or not? Like,
I don't think they're evil. I don't think they're evil. I actually like think they're good people. Does that mean that I would hang out around them? No, but I don't think they're evil. I just think they're just very different. Again, where they come from, this is probably very normal. And again, they wouldn't force this. I think they're not trying to force it on the kid. I think that's the main thing. They're never trying to like force him in their mind. This kid is like going with it, and they're like feeling, oh, he's like opening into it. He's just so not non-judgmental. So I don't think they're evil. Like, are they very like weird? Yes. But I mean, again, weirdness is a relative concept.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are so many moments and sequences here that like are really unsettling. And they're the kind of tension that kind of crawls under your skin rather than being just jump scares. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious, like filming this and kind of developing that kind of tension. What was that like?
It's so interesting. I agree about the jump scares. I usually don't love jump scares. Like sometimes they're a treat, but for me, you have like two per movie that you're allowed to have. Um, but for me, the idea was that it was about building atmosphere and making it feel very grounded and very like for me personally, I don't know if you agree, I find silence far more unsettling than score or music. Like
Yeah,
sometimes score
agree.
really does a lot, and I use it in the movie in a specific moment. So when it comes in, it really hits you. But I think when that scene when he's like dealing with the grandfather and changing his like clothes, I really wanted to feel like we're here with you, and it's silent, and you can hear the party far away, and you're here in this intimate with this cadaver, and you can't escape it. Like I think it comes from that. It comes from like being in sync with the character situation and present circumstances that they feel trapped without any trickery. It feels like this is where we're gonna be. And like I think it was important that I think I always bet on this story feeling grounded and keep on you because everything felt very like grounded and very like true to life. I
Yeah,
mean, as much as the
right.
situation allows it.
That scene that you just mentioned, I was just like waiting the entire time. I was like, what is going to happen as
Hmm.
he's like changing different items? And I love that you just like let the audience imagine what could happen in that situation.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And that's always been like the main dish in the scene, like that, in the story, it's been like that scene. It's all feels just builds to that. Um, and just trying to get into the character's head, like when you're changing the pants, I would wonder, like, is this thing naked underneath it? Like, what are you
right.
gonna see?
Yeah.
Um, the fact that he doesn't want to see the face, I think that's a very like normal thing, especially for a kid. You don't want to see this. So at first it's very like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
um, but yeah, like what's gonna happen? Like, I mean, that's a. I think it comes that we really want to give the sense that this kid is getting in over his head. This kid doesn't know what he's dealing with, and whether what happens was what ends up happening in the movie or something else. Something was bound to go wrong. It's like a kid getting in a big SUV without ever having like touched a steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's something's bound to go wrong in the situation.
So, how much did the story, did anything change from the short story to this short? Did you change any, like, is the events or the
For
characters?
No, for the most part, it's very, very like similar. I mean, there's like little things and moments that, of course, like you don't include. Like, for example, there's that scene that came later on that is like the dad opening up to him saying like, "Oh, the taxidermies are paid for." Like my our daughter's taxidermies are gonna be like they're whenever they die, they're already like covered. Almost like insurance. Like that was added, but the main thing that changed was that I think in the script they do at the end separate, but the one thing that because I was always battling about the ending. I wanted the ending to be true to like what I wanted to say, but also I feel like it needed like a bit of more like a I need like a bit of like a I don't know zest, like a kick or something. So we added that sort of like not body horror, but that scene where he's imagining his girlfriend being desiccated and they're like
Oh yeah.
kissing and stuff. Like that's the one thing that we added at the end, and I'm really glad that we found it. Actually, it was my friend John's idea. He's a filmmaker too, and it was one of the most fun things to film. Actually,
Okay. Because I was
yeah.
wondering about that sequence. It made me question what was real and what wasn't. Um, it made me think, is there like another body inside of her? Like, is that what's happening? Is she actually like 100 years old and she's just like taken over this body? Like, it makes you question what's real in this movie.
Actually, it's so interesting because a lot of people have that reading of it. I can tell that, and I never want to be the person like, oh no, it's what happened because I think it's beautiful. People have their own reading, but in all honesty, the intention is like that I had was like very simple. I was trying to like make it very visual that this guy got the ick. Like he
Yeah.
got the ick on this girl and this family, this girl that he used to like almost like idolize and get hypnotized with like her face and her like features. And now it's a thing that happens that I mentioned that it's like if you hold on to something that is beautiful because you don't want to let it go, even though it's the right thing, eventually that thing that is beautiful just like twists and becomes something else. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to him, that like he could have broken this relationship early on and it would have been like a beautiful memory, but it got spoiled. And now after he went through all of this stuff, he sees his girlfriend that she's gonna become like a some corpse at some point. That's
Right.
what like that trying to like portray in that moment.
I love that you included the comment about the fact the father had paid for his children when they die because it makes it feel like it's a much bigger part of a bigger world and a bigger, cultural thing than
Mhm.
just this family.
Yeah, like it's one of those things that, like when I was like writing, going back to your question about if it's gonna be featured, and I added that scene. And that scene I added on like a whim. I was like, I feel like this could have like one more beat of like really portray not only how big the tradition is, like it goes beyond this family, but also how much it pervades their life. It's not just like they have this odd thing, and it's like this is really like essential to like their existence as a people. And when I was writing it, I realized I think there's potential here for a bigger story. Like, who are the people in Germany? How do you prepare for it? Like what is their diet, for example, leading to like this thing one day? Do they take stuff to make their bodies be in optimum moisture or whatever for like the procedure?
Yeah, absolutely. Now this I'm getting into spoiler territory here, which I might cut out of this interview, but
Okay.
I'm kind of curious, like, is the grandfather actually alive and in this body, or because there's like hints that he could be actually still alive.
hmm hmm
So,
I knew that question was gonna come. Yes. So the filmmaker in me is always gonna say it's up to you, but I think if you put a gun to my head and you ask me, is the grandfather alive or not? I would say yes. There is a part of him inside that is still alive, and that part of him got triggered by the fact that this stranger foreigner is like now dealing with him in a way that only his family was allowed to, his like more immediate family. So that's stuff that of course we develop and explain more in the feature, always still within the realm of like, but could it be this kid imagining it, because I think that's important. And when I did it, I wanted to like have the possibility like this kid is just like freaking out. And
yeah,
again, going back to my culture, where we believe in ghosts and stuff and the supernatural, everyone has a story of like, and even me, like I swear I saw this happening, and it could be wrong, and it could have just been a coincidence, but in my mind, at least, like
Yeah.
made me see this, you know? And I think that kid is kind of going through that in the moment. The most important thing, whether that happened or not, is that Alejandro believes it happened. So, but if you put a gun to my head, yes, it did happen. He did talk to him.
Okay, because I think as a viewer, it makes it more disturbing that the grandfather could still be alive,
Yes,
and
yes.
especially like the last shot of him in the wheelchair towards the door, and he just sit there. It's pretty unsettling.
Yeah, thank you. That was an idea we had at the end because originally the grandfather was not going to be. And then it was like, no, obviously, because in a way, the grandfather and this tradition prevailed, you know? We
Yeah,
stay with him. Like, this kid is now a distant member in the family. He'll become that, but the grandfather won, you know?
it's like his last bit of hope of like the truth coming out that this kid saw what happened, like saw
Mm.
potentially what's going on, and it's
Mhm.
like his last. He could have been saved in that moment, but it's taken away, and so that makes it more terrifying.
See, I hadn't thought of that possibility for the future, and I like it. So I now I'm gonna credit you for that when we're writing it if it ends up coming in because I like that idea that it's like no